Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the Learned Edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
Welcome, all you weirdos. Backup versions of cosmic superintelligences, and everyone kind of worried about that sentinel that got left on Kitty's front lawn. It is time to receive your 166th Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science podcast family. I am your returned from the wilderness host, Jason, broadcasting as almost always from the Wrong Turn studio, perched high atop stately Weird Science Tower. And with me is a man who knows almost as much about the Age of Apocalypse as he does about the Dark Phoenix saga. It's my pal Ruben. Hey Ruben, how the heck are you?
Oh man, I feel slighted.
Well, it's like two giant buildings, like the Sears Tower and the Empire State Building. One is taller than the other, but they're both enormous.
I have read issues of Age of Apocalypse, so I have a little bit more knowledge about that than I do about the Dark Phoenix saga.
Well, thank you for holding down the fort last week when I was, away. I was indisposed for the weekend up in the wilds of the White Mountains of New Hampshire at my fundraiser for charity, also eating and drinking everything in sight for a weekend. So, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I did listen to the show. I enjoyed it very much. You did sneak some Avengers onto the show there, didn't you?
Yeah.
That was not authorized.
Yeah, weird dose of Avengers versus X-Men.
I guess there was some X-Men content in there. I guess we have to allow it. What can I do?
Yeah.
So I definitely approve of your Imperial War Exiles headcanon that you discussed last week. The idea that what seems to be incompatibility between what we saw in X-Manhunt versus Imperial War, that's just Xandra kind of being, sending a garbled message to her dad. Like, the things are bad up here. I'm being overthrown. Don't worry about the details. Just send help.
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the only thing that works for me, and it almost does work because the scroll within the Hobgoblin within the scroll within the Imperial whatever it's so convoluted. I can't even explain it.
What did she think was going on at any given time?
Yeah.
Wait, what is she going to do? So I think that works pretty well. I also think going over to Uncanny, I think it's a really big deal that we got a Prisoner X mention in that book because I had forgotten about that whole storyline. So
yeah, remember, who is Prisoner X? Who could it be? It's got to be somebody big. I still think it's going to be Legion. That's the only.
People have thought
character.
Legion or maybe Rasputin somehow is going to come into this. But the thing is, though, that Prisoner X, we're told, is one of these avians, right? The avians are this particular group of mutants who all have psychic type powers, and they all get brain tumors. Remember that thing?
Yeah, I had forgotten about that.
Yeah,
it's been a really long time since we talked about.
I wanted to speculate on cool ideas too, but it's got to be an avian, and the avians we know of are Xavier, who his brain tumor got taken care of real quick, Scurvy, who I think still has the brain tumor, Harvey, who did not get Harvey had a poor outcome, let's say. I guess Cassandra Nova and Prisoner X. So those are all the avians we know about. So I'm guessing it'll be a brand new character, but who knows? Probably won't find out about it until after Age of Revelation. There's only one more Uncanny issue before that happens, and it doesn't seem like they're going to get to that. So that'll probably be sometime next year. Now, today, we have some final issues going on. So I got to get that going. Final issue of at least one, maybe two titles today. It's kind of unclear. Plus, we got a one-shot, which is technically also a final issue. And we have an Alpha number 1 issue, which is only the start of an event, but also it's kind of a final issue because it's not like there's going to be an Alpha number 2. Comic book numbering, very strange.
It's really strange. I don't even know if I call it an event because it's like a 4-issue miniseries plus this alpha issue. So
plus an Omega issue. Yeah. It's really a 6-issue miniseries, but they want to have 3 number 1s for that. So they have Alpha number 1, then they have number 1, and later they'll have Omega number 1. That is all it is to get the number 1 on the cover half the time, just like they did with the giant-size Kamala Khan book. All it is. What we have today, as I climb down off my soapbox, okay, here I am, back on the ground, we have Exceptional X-Men number 13, which may be a finale, hard to say. We have Hellverine number 10, that's definitely a finale. We have X-Men of Apocalypse Alpha number 1 of 1. And we have Imperial War Nova Centurion number 1 of 1, also a gratuitous number 1 with no number 2. Now, I had forgotten to read the Infinity comic this week until just like an hour ago. So, oh no, I better hurry up and read that thing. Ruben, there's no Infinity comic this week. What do you make of that?
It's disappointing. I was ready just to get this story done with.
The morph changeling thing?
Yes. I was I wasn't looking forward to the ending, but I was looking forward to saying, okay, we're turning the page. Like, we'll take a week off, and then next week we'll have something fresh.
Now, that lends a little bit of credence to a theory I had that either the Infinity Comics is going to go on hiatus during the Age of Revelation, or maybe it will have an Infinity Comic taking place in the Age of Revelation, because this kind of feels like they want to line up the end of this storyline, of this arc of the Infinity Comic, with the beginning of Age of Revelation. So maybe that's what it's about. Or it could be just somebody was late getting the work done. Who the hell knows? They don't tell me.
I think we'll probably get like a Age of Revelation version of this team.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. That would be really cool if they totally commit to the bit and even do the Infinity comic. Now, speaking of Age of Revelation, I do have a little bit of news here. Do I have that? I removed the breaking news drop, so I'll have to go with that one. Conductor of X, Tom Brevoort, did an interview with Adventures in Poor Taste, where he said the Age of Revelation, Ruben, it's going to last 3 months, October through December. And then in January, we'll return to something like the current status quo, but with maybe a new direction for the line. He calls it a new phase. In response to a question about whether current titles are ending or if they'll be returning after the event, he says, this is a quote, "A bunch of titles are coming back, just like series came back after the Age of Apocalypse. Other titles are going to come back with a bit of a refresh. Some of them are going to transform and essentially be new titles coming out on the other side." So that doesn't clear anything up, does it, Ruben?
No, but
some things are going to change, but no hint at what it is. We can certainly speculate and guess.
Yeah, I'm going to speculate that last line is just a reference to what's happening with Exceptional X-Men. I'm guessing that the end is really, the end of this story, but we'll come back as something else.
Yeah, I haven't seen yet, because that's the thing. The very last panel of Exceptional X-Men that we'll talk about today has the end period, which that doesn't usually mean that we're just going to go away for 3 weeks and come back. That feels like an ending, and the book kind of feels like it has an ending feel to it. Everybody hugs and high fives and yay us and the end.
I almost wonder, are they going to roll this team into Uncanny X-Men based on the last page of this issue?
Or will it become something like New X-Men, Young X-Men, something like that? Maybe
Uncanny X-Men Blue.
Sometimes it did. Well,
was that a thing? Red and blue teams, or was it red and gold?
Blue and gold, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah. I was making an off-color pun, but that's all right. So another thing Brevoort said, he revealed that there'll be at least 2 X-Men who experience the Age of Revelation and end up remembering those events when they return to the present day. So I guess most people, it'll be like it never happened, but a couple people are going to remember. Now, Cyclops is clearly a candidate for one of those things, right? Because at the end of the Zero issue, he talks about, time travel type stuff. Do you have any guesses for who the other person to remember the Age of Revelation might be?
It'll be Bishop.
Bishop is a good guess because he has,
he had a big role in Age of Apocalypse and being the one guy that, knew the timeline he came from.
Right, because, he was out of time already. He came from that timeline, and so he saw that the world had changed. He didn't think it had always been like this. My guess, though, Ruben, perhaps cynical. What is the cynical guess for who's going to remember? Who's going to be the most important X-Man character?
Oh, God, as soon as you said that. So Kamala Khan is going to be the
Kamala Khan is
the
my
keeper
guess.
of the truth.
Everything revolves around Ms. Marvel going forward. That's what I'm thinking. That's my guess. Again, I'm probably wrong. I guessed in the Slack very definitively. I said, "Oh, that Spider-Man clone thing. That's not going to be his actual clone. That's not going to be what's his name, Ben Riley. No. They're not going to do that again. And yeah, they obviously are doing that again. So maybe my guess that this is going to be Kamala Khan is as good as my guess that the pretend Peter Parker is not Ben Riley. But there we go. Okay, that is enough news for today. Let's get to the actual books. And we would start with the Infinity comic, but we ain't got one. So we're going directly to Exceptional X-Men number 13 of 13, maybe? Written by Eve L. Ewing, art by Federica Manchin, colors by Nolan Woodard, letters by Travis Lanham. Yeah, this is the last pre-Age of Revelation issue. Maybe the last ever. Maybe it changes. We don't know. But clearly, Eve Ewing, this whole little arc here is going for one particular emotional point she wanted to get to. She wanted to get to Kitty saying, I don't regret joining the X-Men, that I wouldn't undo the choice even if I could. And to get to that emotional moment, Eve Ewing makes some questionable choices regarding how things like telepathy and time travel work.
Yes, there's a lot of don't mess with the time stream stuff.
Right.
That doesn't seem to be followed here. I was waiting for this, since Emma somehow can communicate through time and space, I guess, through one of these portals. I was like, is she going to do a time and space mind whammy at the end of this so that Kitty forgets all this happened? But they don't even do that. So I'm really confused about, she just never brought this up when Charles showed up. Oh yeah, by the way, 10 weeks ago I met my
right. This is not hard science fiction. This is not Arthur C. Clarke Rendezvous with Rama type stuff. This is not, somebody who's thinking through all the details like The Martian. But I think if the emotional point had really landed, I'd be able to overlook that. It wouldn't have bothered me. But because the emotional point doesn't land at all for me, I'm just going back and picking through all the details.
Well, X-Men of Apocalypse Alpha gives you an explanation for this. So when this happens, the time stream branches. And we don't follow that branch, the branch where Kitty knows everything before she's recruited.
Could be.
So you seem really interested in that theory.
The telepathy thing really bugged me because it kind of makes everything else moot. Because in this book, Emma can psychically communicate, telepathically talk to Kitty back in time.
Yeah, she could have just not sent the entire team. She could have just been
just said, "Hey, Kitty, we're going to open up a portal at the corner of X and Y.
Yeah,
go there." They didn't have to send anybody back through time.
It'd be what, the corner of Claremont and
Burn.
Right, okay, perfect.
So how does this even work? Because Kitty is, I don't know how many, 10, 15, 20 years in the past. My headcanon, what I'm picturing is that Reggie's opened up a portal again between the two time periods, and I think Emma is sticking her pretty little head through the portal and doing the telepathy that way. That's what I'm picturing, just like her head sticking out in the air in the past.
Got it. Yeah, so she's not leaning all the way through. She's just kind of in enough so that she can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Again, if they could do that, they did not need to send any of these exceptional teens back through the past. So just remind people where we are, because we've already jumped into it. Kitty had fallen through a portal into her own past, made by Bronze's friend/crush Reggie, who turns out to be a portal-making mutant who can't control himself. It's a whole thing. The exceptional kids went to a thrift store and bought what seemed like completely normal modern-day clothing to an old guy like me, and they go to try to find older Kitty and bring her back, but instead they run into young Kitty. Oops. And also, a dog sentinel managed to run through a portal. So a dog sentinel has gone to the past as well. So here we are in this next issue. Kitty figures out that she's in her own past while she's breaking the fourth wall. So credit to Eve Ewing for committing to that bit. Definite, I think that's the first time I've seen a fourth wall time travel break as she figures out that she's time traveled.
I also want to be kind of annoyed about the sliding time scale. Because there's a reference here to a VCR, so this is definitely 80s, right?
Oh, yeah, 80s or early 90s at the latest, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, I don't know if this time actually works, but I'm not going to try to calculate it.
Yeah, that's right up front. Is that? Yeah, that's the mom talks to the dad and says, "Hey, the VCR is acting up again." I didn't even notice that. Good one. So we got that thing. We got that thing. I'm going through my notes. I've kind of done things out of order because I had to get to that telepathy thing right away because it bugged. So what we get here is we get that action sequence to prevent us from thinking too hard about the time travel and psychic working questions. And so the dog sentinel shows up, and the kids do a pretty decent job defeating it, right? We're supposed to show that they're growing as X-Men. They can handle themselves, so that works out pretty well. Emma tells older Kitty, who's like right across the street, don't you interfere, because we don't want to change the timeline. Ruben is a dog sentinel attacking Kitty Pryde's house before she becomes a mutant or reveals herself to be a mutant. Already a pretty big change to Kitty's own timeline.
Yeah, exactly. Or seeing the kids.
Or having this attack
do their freak out mutant powers.
Yeah, use her mutant power for the first time.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big change, changing that.
Yes.
Because before these time travel shenanigans, young Kitty's first use of her power was in Uncanny 129, which I think is supposed to be taking place like the same day as we're seeing here. Mm-hmm. Because she's dressed the same, and she has a really bad headache in that issue, and she has a headache here as well. So I think we've only moved things up like a couple of hours maximum.
Okay.
But we did move things up. It is changing history. Yeah. Do you think Kitty's going to remember this having happened? Like going
that's
forward,
what I'm saying.
Is her first? Yeah. Did this really happen?
She has to have remembered
time
this.
Travel here.
Yeah, she has to have remembered this, right? Like, oh, there were these 3 mutants that showed up. They fought this horrible robot dog that was attacking me, and they left.
When Kitty goes
and
to
then
that
later
concert,
Xavier shows up.
Kitty goes to a concert and sees a kid with wacky hair and clothing being hassled by a security guard. Is she going to recognize her as, hey, that's the girl who saved me from a sentinel back 20 years ago, or maybe in the 80s?
Yeah, good point.
I don't think anyone's going to remember this happened. I think this is going to be totally self-contained, and it's basically, what do we say, pocket universe. Let's just say that.
Granted, you could say one thing, like, between this and the point that she sees this girl at the concert, a lot of shit happens.
That's true.
And I could imagine her being, like, not remembering.
A lot of shit happens, but this
thing.
would be one of the biggest days in her life. I mean, she had some other big days, like, she phased a whole bullet through the earth at one point.
Yeah.
Various things. Mm-hmm. She died and came back. Okay. But this thing she might remember. But again, we're trying to be logical about this. I think we're thinking harder about this than the writer and editor did.
I'll just headcanon it that when Xavier meets with her, he does a little, peek into her mind. And he's like, "Now we don't need to remember that." And he just did what Xavier does and wiped it out.
I'm going to say Reggie's power is not what we think it is. It's not really time travel portals. He creates like holodecks from people's memories, minds.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Kind of like we learned that who was the bad guy in Wolverine again? What was his name?
Which one?
The illusion guy.
Oh, Mastermind.
Mastermind, yes, thank you. Like Mastermind's powers leveled up so he can make people see things that from their own memories.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Maybe Reggie has the same kind of thing, except you have to go through the portal, like a holodeck power to make it work. Mm-hmm. So this isn't Kitty's actual past. There's no danger changing the past. It's just a holodeck.
That would be a lot better. Okay. And you could even say like Emma and everybody else doesn't really know what the power is. So they're worried.
They take it being what time travel, because hey, time travel is absolutely a thing in this universe. This must be more time travel. They don't know it's just a holodeck. Okay, we have definitely solved all the problems here. So that's good. And that would be why the telepathy works too. Because he's just a holodeck.
Yep.
It all works. I might write this up and send it in. Get myself a no problem.
Just write a letter that's like, "Oh, that was so cool." And then you just like explain everything. And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what
you clearly meant this to be." Yeah, very good. Okay, back to the issue. Time for the emotional payoff. The whole reason this 2-issue story exists, other than needing to fill 2 issues of space before Age of Revelation, Bronze wanders around town looking for older Kitty, while Axel and Melee are going to, quote, walk Kitty home. That's what the dialogue balloon says. Ruben, where did the whole fight just take place?
I thought it was the front yard of her
Kitty's
house.
Front yard.
Yeah.
So we're going to walk you home was a little weird. I know Kitty has had a rough day. So
she's like, it's right
We'll
here.
go in to take help you out, making sure you're feeling all right, but walk home was a funny way to put it.
I also laughed at like adult Kitty was, hiding behind the car that was on this street, right? And then it's like, oh, you got to go find her.
Yeah.
What she just like must have really wandered really far away, which maybe it was like the whole, I don't want to be within eyesight of, myself, my younger self, but
yeah, exactly.
Seems like she went pretty far away,
or at least a couple blocks, maybe. I'm going to say she just went a couple blocks just because she didn't want to be seen by her younger self and stuck around. I think that's all right. She's in this like little playground nearby.
Yeah.
And this is when Bronze asks Kitty, would you take it all back if you could? Your whole life with the X-Men, because we could do that. Bronze says, we could go back and talk to young Kitty and say, hey, don't go with the bald guy. Stay away from creepy bald man in wheelchair. I don't know if Kitty would listen, but they could tell her that. Would create a hell of a paradox, though, right? If this weren't a holodeck.
Yeah.
Or
Xavier
really
would fix that. He would just erase that memory. Yeah. So no biggie.
I would give E-viewing so much credit if they did change the past. And Ruben, that's what causes the Age of Revelation.
Oh, wow.
So this is the
real zero. This is the zero issue of Age of Revelation.
This is the real kickoff. This is, I forget what the name of the event is, pre-Age of Apocalypse, where David Haller goes back and kills his dad by accident.
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of that.
That would have been cool. This was supposed to be one of the three big, allegedly, this was going to be one of the three big X-Men titles. Never felt like it.
The three flagships. That's what they called it. Yep. Okay, but Kitty says, no, I don't want to change my path. Not because of all those times that she saved the world, not because of all the friends she made, Piotr, for instance, all those folks. No, Kitty says that she doesn't want to change the path she was on because then she wouldn't have gone to teach Bronze, Axo, and Melee. Because, Ruben, these 13 issues of Exceptional X-Men have clearly been the peak of Kitty Pryde's entire life. Yeah. This is why she doesn't want to change her path. Do you buy that?
No, not at all.
I do not. That's why I pick at everything else, because that emotional point just doesn't make sense. I know E-viewing wants to, plug her own book, say, hey, hasn't this been great? And it's just Kitty Pryde's been around for so long, done so many amazing things. I cannot believe that this is what she would even say, what she would even claim out loud. Oh, no, this is why I wouldn't want to change my path, because then I wouldn't get to meet you, strange teenage girl with pink hair.
This could have been softened just a tiny bit and been great, right? She could have just said, like, I did all these amazing things. It's been really tough, exactly. But, like, I've saved the world. And one of the things, even when I'm feeling like crap and living in Chicago, I run into great people like you. And suddenly you're like, awesome. Like, she's rational, and she also really loves this group. Yeah, exactly. And I
like that so much better.
Like, high five. But to be like, all that other shit, not quite good enough. I would throw that all away. But you three, we're going to keep it just for you three.
Just for you three, and for that tattoo girl I made out with that one time. But we're not going to mention her. Okay, so we need one more action scene, apparently. We're told that the Dog Sentinel from the future had this Walkman-looking device in it, I guess it is the 80s, that sent out a signal that was heard and responded to by an old-fashioned humanoid Jack Kirby-style Sentinel that also shows up at young Kitty's house. Kind of crazy that the same technologies across all these generations of Sentinel, but sure, I'll buy it. They're the same color, it works. Older Kitty does not stick around to fight this one. She dips out through a portal that Reggie makes for her from the present, or outside the holodeck, via my reckoning, which leaves the exceptional teens to fight the Sentinel. Ruben, do the teens defeat this enemy and just break it into tiny, harmless pieces?
They seem to struggle. They don't die.
They seem to struggle. They don't die, but they don't defeat the Sentinel. They get some
high fives, yeah.
Because we just turn the page, and they're no longer fighting the Sentinel. They're back in the present. So what happened to the Sentinel? Well, it's still back on Kitty's front lawn. Teenager.
It scans for mutants and detects young Kitty Pryde, who's just revealed and murders her to death.
Right?
Yeah, that's the end.
And it's not even mentioned. Like the rest of the book, they don't say, oh, what about this? They forget it happens. Crazy stuff. We never find out. E-viewing just moves on. And because she got that emotional moment, the beat she wanted to end on a little bit of action. And now we have them do a group hug. We get 2 quick panels showing Kitty making a phone call to Rogue, which I guess is to show that Kitty really has emotionally come to terms with being a member of the X-Men. I guess at the very beginning of this story, she was not taking phone calls from Rogue.
Or anybody. I think she basically told everybody, Rogue, don't talk to me.
I think specifically Rogue was trying to call her and she didn't take the call. Back when, the Uncanny #1 was just being set up. So that's another thing that makes me think, plus the end in the corner, another thing that makes me think that, maybe this really is wrapping up this series because it is calling back to those very first issues. So maybe this will come back just the way it is with the same writer and artist and cast of characters. Maybe there'll be some minor changes to it. Maybe there'll be some major changes to it. Maybe they'll change the name. Maybe they'll reboot with a new number 1. Or maybe it's just over. I don't know.
I mean, it says the end.
It says the end.
We don't see that a lot when, the story's going to continue.
No, we don't.
If it comes back, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Viewing is still around. If it comes back, I bet it's going to get a new title.
Could be a New Mutant sort of a thing. Do you know the sales for this? I don't really follow those things. I know we don't have great numbers anyway.
Yeah.
I don't get the feeling this one was really burning up the charts. No, it's not like absolute Batman and then exceptional X-Men.
Yeah, I'm looking at the letters page, and the very last note from the person that writes the responses to the letters page says basically, and that's all for now, folks. Thanks for writing in. Thanks for reading. Blah, blah, blah. There are some big changes on the horizon, but trust that we haven't seen the last of our intrepid teen heroes. So,
which again, that could mean they always say that when a book gets canceled, right? Oh, well, you'll see these characters again. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or it could mean we'll be back in 3 months.
What would you think about?
We can do that anyway.
What would you think about these characters, these 3 joining the Uncanny team and Gail Simone writing them?
Could be. I mean, I don't like that joining the Uncanny team, like not with keeping that being uncanny with still those adults there. I think that's too many, especially too many new characters and old characters mixed together. If we spin off both sets of teens into a New Mutants.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And have Uncanny just be, Rogue and Gambit and Nightcrawler and that stuff going forward, that could work.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll probably find out in a few weeks, because in a few weeks we'll get the January solicits starting to drop, and then we'll kind of see what's happening. But right for now, we only have the October, November, December solicits, and those are all Age of Revelation. So pretty soon we'll know what's going on.
I hope we continue with a new art team, because once again, I look at Emma and she looks pretty darn homely.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the art. All the things I've been saying, I just don't like the way that Federica Mancini draws faces. I think the action looks pretty good. I don't
like her with the glowing blonde hair either. It's really weird to me.
Yeah, weird color choice. I think the Sentinel looks pretty cool. The action looks good, but the faces often just look caricature-y in a way that I find not great. But that's just a style thing. I don't like it so much.
Who cleans up that big Sentinel? Does this fly away? Like, if you were to take this for, that this was time travel and the Sentinel attacks, does it just goes back to wherever, and then they clean up the flipped over car and all the damage in the neighborhood before Charles shows up?
I don't know. I do not know. Again, I think that if you were to leave this intact Sentinel and one brand new inexperienced mutant in front of it, it's not going to go away. It will kill the mutant in front of it. That's what it does. So again.
Yeah. It's the branching timelines, man. I'm telling you, we got a great theory. So now there's
the pocket dimension.
There's a split. There's a split universe where Kitty Pryde was never recruited to the X-Men.
Okay, so let's rate this thing and move on. The plot it's just nonsense. It didn't need to exist based on what they've told us about how the telepathy works. It was completely just gratuitous. Eve Viewing doesn't seem to care about the plot. She cared about the big emotional moment. And because that doesn't land, I can't give her a pass on the plot mechanics being nonsense. So I'm just going to say this is a regular 5 out of 10, and let's hope something better comes of it down the line. Or Expatriate X-Men is going to be during Age of Revelation, so let's hope that adding Kamala Khan to this cast will be a good thing.
Yeah, if I like the art better, I'd join you at a 5, but I don't, so I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's pretty bad. I still like these characters, the young characters they added. I actually feel like these are maybe my favorite. I guess every time we read one of these young issues, I say, I like these ones better or those ones better. But I think these are good characters, but the actions around the characters are really boring. It's 13 issues and nothing has really happened. I thought it was a slow burn that would pick up to a standard X-Men speed, but it still feels like a nothing burger every issue.
Yeah, there is definitely been more action. These 2 issues did have action in them. We just didn't care for the way the action was set up. So I think it was transitioning towards more of an action adventure book and not just slice of life, but it didn't really kick over into that next gear.
We got the worst of everything, right? We got the worst version of Sinister. Emma's been kind of terrible. We've had Sad Sack Kitty, and
there's not one big moment or big issue I'm going to remember 5 years from now. Oh, remember that thing that happened? I don't think that's going to nothing's really going to stand out.
Yeah, I don't like this one.
Oh, well, let's move on, Ruben. Let's cleanse our palate by going to another definite final issue. This is Hellverine number 10 of 10, Shadow Blistering. Written by Benjamin Percy, art by Raphael Ienco, colors by Brian Valenza, letters by Travis Lanham. And Ruben, yeah, this book is over too, and some of the things we were just saying about Exceptional, how it never really got where we wanted it to go, I think they kind of apply to Hellverine as well. I think we had more fun, more laughs with this, but I can't think we can't really call this a success, can we?
No. Very similar to how I feel about Exceptional. I'm more interested in seeing this character in the hands of somebody else. Like, how will they be handled when they pop back up in another story than I am in, Ben Percy getting another chance to write a Hellverine story.
Yeah. All these things I've just said about Exceptional, so I'm trying to remember. Did I say them for this one? It really works. I think we've given this one a little more of a pass because it's not a flagship book. It is clearly way off on the side. Nothing in this book is affecting anything else. All the thousands of people that Hell Hulk murdered to death or caused to murder each other to death did not show up anywhere else. It's just kind of off on the side, so we can kind of laugh at its silliness and not take it too seriously. So here's where we left off. This demon guy, Severith, who was part of the good guys team, surprise, actually a bad guy. He had created Hell Hulk in Hell as a weapon for Mephisto. The Hell Hulk attacked Mephisto instead. Mephisto got pissed off at this, had the Hell Hulk torn to pieces, and then Mephisto tortured Severith for being such an incompetent demon. Now Severith wants revenge by putting the Hell Hulk back together again like Voltron and sicken him on Mephisto again. So Mephisto somehow needs Hellverine's assistance to defeat Hell Hulk again. And so Mephisto is holding Akihiro's sometime girlfriend Aurora as a hostage, except it turns out he really isn't. It was all a fake.
Yes.
But that getting ahead of myself a little bit.
Mephisto's power level is way all over the place in this story.
Yeah.
And in general in the Marvel Universe, right? Like sometimes they say he's, elemental force that can fight with gods, and then other times he struggles with a Hell Hulk.
Indeed. So, not a whole lot of story in this issue. Severith and Hell Hulk try to put together a demon army of their own. One of their recruits is really Mephisto in disguise. Mephisto fights Severith and Hell Hulk, while Hellverine just rides around on his motorcycle splatting demonic randos. Not really part of the main event here. And then the big finale involves Severith drawing the demon Bagragul out of Akihiro, I guess to use Bagragul as yet another weapon against Mephisto, and now is when the cavalry rides in, that cavalry being Akihiro's Project Hellfire teammates, along with Aurora. So a missile fired from a plane by Dr. Spivey opens up a crack in the earth that, I guess, sends both Hell Hulk and Mephisto back down to hell? Is that how geology works? Maybe it was a Hellfire missile, haha, and there's magic kind of a thing. But
if you dig just a little bit more in that hole, you're going to dig right into hell.
Only in Utah, though. Only this one place in Utah. So now Severith is a captive of the Project Hellfire folks. Akihiro re-merges with Bagragul. Remember, that demon's the only thing keeping him alive, / undead. And then Akihiro uses the power of damnation to burn Severith to a pile of smoldering ash, I think? Is that what happens? Mm-hmm. What happens to Severith? He's
dead.
He's dead, like, doesn't exist, or dead, like, because...
I assume he just goes to hell and then he gets tortured by Mephisto for eternity.
So it would have been the same if he had fallen through that same crack with Mephisto and Hell Hulk?
Yeah.
It's like calling a cab versus an Uber versus just walking somewhere. You all get the same destination?
Yep.
Maybe.
But we get to do like the penance. I guess it's not even really penance here, is it? Just sort of...
the power of damnation. That's what it says.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we end with almost a group hug. A narration box from Akihiro praising the power of friendship. And we were only speculating, what's going to happen? Are we going to kill off Akihiro? Are we going to free him from the whole Deep Bagragul and return him to life? No, he's just the same status quo at the end of the series as he started it. He's just going to continue being Hellverine, the end.
Yes. So we get to see the team, right?
Yeah, and all the team's still alive too. Even the ones who got torn in half by Hulk, but definitely got better.
I didn't really like the X Factor investigation squad, but I gotta say this is a downgrade for Aurora. Like, she should be leaving this team immediately.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
She could maybe get back on Alpha Flight. That'd be a better gig for her.
She wasn't being held captive by Mephisto. He only made Akihiro think she was in order to get Akihiro on side. At what point was it fake Aurora? Was the Aurora who showed up to Akihiro in the graveyard and talked to him before leaving? Was that fake or was that real Aurora?
I think that was real Aurora, and then she went off to go look for the baddies and never found him.
But she didn't call back and contact Akihiro, and he didn't call her when he panicked and said, oh no, something bad must have happened to her. He just went off to Utah where hell is close.
Her favorite show was on and she
lost track of time.
Yeah, she lost track of time.
Yeah, so again, weird plot. We should talk about the art because opposite of what we said about not Expatriate, it's got to be Expatriate, about Exceptional X-Men, the art here is pretty damn amazing. Certainly better than the plot. One page in particular is incredible, and you probably know which page I mean. What do you think I mean?
I don't know. Tell me which one. Is it the one where it's got to be something with Hellhulk, right?
Oh yeah.
Let's see. I'm flipping through which Hellhulk page.
Riveting podcasting right now.
He's punching Mephisto, and then he does the Loki.
It's the 9-panel grid page. Yeah. So
that's
there's
pretty good.
No dialogue.
Punches Mephisto's head into the ground. That's great.
This is a poster type page, 9-panel grid, just of all the fight between Hellhulk and Mephisto. Hellhulk beating the crap out of him. In the middle panel, Hellhulk literally bursts out of the panel itself, and then at the end, it's definitely a reference to the Avengers movie and Hulk smashing puny Loki back and forth. So looks really cool. That's an amazing page right there. That page is like half the value of this entire comic, I think. I keep going back to that one page because it's the best.
That Loki scene from Avengers is such a cultural phenomenon now because in the Superman movie, it just came out, the same thing happens. And I was like, wow, that is now that's what you show when you're showing somebody getting their ass kicked. So whoever came up with that scene, I guess kudos to them. You created a cultural moment.
Yeah, and it's in this 9-panel grid, it's done kind of subtly. They're not winking, hey, look what we're doing. They're just, he's beating the crap out of Mephisto. And at the very end, he goes boing, 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 back and forth. So pretty good. So let's score this darn thing. I think the brutal top-notch action beyond, hyper-violence beyond any point of reality is what we want from this book. The beyond, just over the top where it's kind of funny, kind of brutal, right at that kind of turning point. Great art, not such a great plot, a finale that's less of a bang and more of a thud. It's got to score higher than exceptional for me. The art is just way too good. Can I go all the way to a 6? The plot is just so bad.
I got to
go to 5.8. 5.8 out of 10.
Yeah. I'm just going to give it a 5.2. I was kind of disappointed by this ending. I understand it's a rush to conclusion, but it sort of is a nothing burger. And then you start thinking about, at what point was Aurora swapped out, and it doesn't make any sense. And then
have Aurora brought in the penultimate issue feels just totally out of left field.
Yeah, and the wavering power of Mephisto, and I know Hellhulk is sort of a Hulk, but really he's just the guy that makes you angry, right, when he's around you.
Right.
So I try to understand how this thing could really be a threat to Mephisto, and I don't buy it. So
beat the crap out of him on that page. That's the thing.
I know. I don't know. I just didn't think it was that great. It was kind of disappointing. I do appreciate Ben Percy for creating this character. I think it's a more interesting angle for Akihiro, and I'm happy to see him pop back up as a guest star and whatever you want to throw him in.
I saw that I did actually read they call the Undead Iron Fist? Is that what they're calling it now? The new number 1 for Danny Rand?
Yeah, you called that one.
Yeah, so he's back. There is no Hellverine in it, unfortunately. And it's being written by the same guy who did Dazzler.
Oh, God. All right, never
mind. It's a better issue than Dazzler was. Okay, damning with faint praise, kind of. But it's not all that well written. They haven't revealed why he's back or what he's been sent to do. But it is, if you're happy to see Iron Fist again, the real, regular, standard Iron Fist, it's worth taking a look at. And
Does he look undead?
I'm still hoping for crossover.
Does he look undead?
He looks pretty undead. Okay. Actually, he looks like he has a torn mask over his face that looks like Baron Zemo, who has just the hanging mask, almost like he's from one of the Cobra Commando type people.
Yep. Yeah, he's got one of those hoods on.
Yeah, so that's what it looks like. That was, check that out maybe. I'm still hoping for a crossover between these two because I think it's It's just too perfect not to happen. But we have beaten this one into the ground, much like Hell Hulk did to Mephisto. So let's move on to X-Men of Apocalypse Alpha #1. Do we need both an alpha and a #1? Yes, apparently we do. It's written by Jeff Joseph Loeb, illustrator Simone DeMeo. It says illustrator, and there's no colorist listed, so I guess that means that Simone DeMeo did all the work, soup to nuts. Letters, though, it took 2 people. It took Richard Starkings and Comic Craft's Tyler Smith. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give some background, a general lay of the land about this miniseries, and then Ruben, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to explain what in tarnation is going on here.
Sure, sounds good.
So talk about Jeff Loeb for a minute. He's a well-known writer of comics, including Hush 2, a.k.a. Hatouche. Are they really canceling the second half of that? I've heard that rumor.
That's what Jim says, and that's sort of shocking because that story does not feel like it has even hit the midpoint.
Yeah. So I haven't really been keeping up, but he's a very famous comic book writer, and he's also written other stuff. Are you familiar with what he's written outside of the realm of comics?
Not that.
He's written for TV shows like Smallville, Lost, and Heroes, 3 pretty big shows. He's also written a couple movies, including Commando. Yes, that Commando was written by Jeff Loeb, and also Teen Wolf was like his first big break.
Oh, wow.
I had
He's
no
all over
idea.
the place. Yeah,
he definitely has a wide range if you can write Teen Wolf and Commando and these comic books.
He also wrote The Long Halloween, which is, arguably up there as like one of the best Batman stories ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating to me that, that was like a very mystery focused story that a lot of people say is like, oh, this is true Batman as a detective. And then you get Hush, which is just like this nonstop action fest with really no substance to it.
Yeah, action and all that wondering who is Hush, who is Hush, who is Hush. That's the big thing there. So yeah, he's written extensively for both Marvel and DC. He's done Batman, obviously, and Spider-Man, Superman, Hulk, a lot of X-Men stuff, including being one of the main architects, writers of the original Age of Apocalypse event, including creating a little character called Nate Gray, a.k.a. X-Man. That is a Jeff Loeb character. So this series is a celebration of the 30th anniversary of the original Age of Apocalypse. And Tom Brevoort, I get a lot of stuff from him. He likes to talk about interviews sometimes. He says that this was originally supposed to be the anniversary project, the Jeff Loeb thing here. But then he said it looked for a bit like Loeb was so busy with other projects, this might be delayed or might not happen. So Brevoort went and talked to the other people on the X Slack, or whatever the X communication thing is now, and says, hey, what else can we do? And that's when Jed MacKay came up with the idea for Age of Revelation, which is kind of crazy that this is the Jeff Loeb thing is one self-contained 6-issue story, and because it was late, we get a line-wide remake for at least 3 months as a substitute. So they are completely separate things. I'm sure a lot of people bought this issue thinking it was part of Age of Revelation. It is absolutely not. It is its very own thing. That's going to be an alpha issue, a 4-issue, quote, main miniseries, and then an Omega issue, all written by Jeff Loeb. Okay.
I mean, maybe the original vision was you would do sort of these 6 core issues, and then you'd have like the other stories take a break and do like weird tie-ins to this, but I don't know.
Possible. Who knows? So that's about all I know about this. I tried to read this a couple times. I eventually did read this last night, but I just kept bouncing off it. Like I'd read a couple pages and then I'd look up and I was in the kitchen getting a snack. Like, oh, I guess it wasn't holding my attention. I guess I'm here now.
Yeah.
So I eventually did get through it, and it was all right. I think I get the general lay of the land, but Ruben, you are the local expert on anything to do with Age of Apocalypse. Again,
yeah, I'm in the middle of reading that, and I've maybe read about half of it at this point. So right. I'm still really not qualified to speak on this, but I am officially in and excited about the original series.
Awesome.
There's some things in it that I think are really fascinating. So, it's sort of an alternate timeline universe, but it's done kind of in an intelligent way where because you go into the past, then you have to like hit on all the sort of major character beats of the X-Men between like when the timeline changes and the present timeline.
Okay.
And so you have these sort of like, oh, well, because this happened, this other thing, changed. And that's why this character's here, not there. And they do a pretty good job on that. Like at first I thought it was, oh, this is just a kind of like extreme 90s comic story. But right. I've read a few of the issues, multiple times. And kind of enjoyed this, like, oh, well, actually, that's a little more clever than I thought. So, for example, because Charles is not the one that founds the X-Men, they get founded in Europe. And so they're not in America when Apocalypse takes over there.
Okay, right. Because, again, to remind people, the way this started was that Legion went back in time. He said, if I kill Magneto before Magneto turns bad, then Magneto won't be around to prevent my dad from doing good stuff. But he goes back, tries to do it, and Charles basically throws himself in front of Magneto, and Charles dies instead. And so Apocalypse says, hey, there's no one here to stop me. I'm gonna pop out and start doing my thing 10 years earlier than I did in the Charles Alive timeline. And that's what Age of Apocalypse is. So that's why things are different.
Yep. Without Xavier, he doesn't recruit the Summers brothers, so they end up getting captured by Sinister and kind of being raised by him.
Yeah, everybody's in kind of a position. Like Gambit is still way into Rogue, but Rogue ends up being married to Magneto. So Gambit's kind of just orbiting around. He's like best friends with Magneto, but also still orbiting around, like in case Rogue ever decides to, but I don't want to be with Magneto anymore. He's always like right there to scoop her up. Kind of creepy.
Yep. And Logan and Jean Grey, they're not featured in this, but they're actually an item because Scott was never in the picture.
Right.
So they go around doing their thing.
There's a Sabretooth, Wildchild, and Blink are kind of a group, kind of like a trio connected to each other. Blink is new. She was created during this event, I believe, right?
Yes. Yeah, she was from the Age of Apocalypse.
Because there are two Blinks in the 616, the one from Age of Apocalypse who goes to the 616, and then the original one from the 616 who died but came back. So that gets confusing. And also this is called what? Earth 295, I think, is what we call Age of Apocalypse. Is that correct?
Something like that. That wasn't originally how it was characterized, because but I guess there was
originally it was just the 616, but changed.
Yes.
But then they kind of decided, actually, let's call this its own universe.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of this book is going to be about what exactly is going on here. Yeah. Because after Age of Apocalypse ended, Marvel did revisit the world a few times in different places. But I think this book is ignoring all previous revisits to Age of Apocalypse. Is that what you got out of it? That's the
question. I'm going to have to read all of them, and I actually am going to stick with it and try to get fully caught up out of just personal curiosity. But I've done a little bit of research on this, and it seems like a lot of people that are really well versed in this series are kind of annoyed with a few of the character beats and commentary in here, saying it just doesn't work.
Saying, these characters were dead, but now they're alive again. And I think maybe that might be because they died in the post-Age of Apocalypse revisitations, and maybe we're just ignoring those or saying, the universe splintered. That was a different version of this different version of this different version.
Yeah.
And now we're picking up from the real one.
Yeah. Hard to say.
Okay. So why don't you tell us about the actual plot of this book?
Sure. Yeah. So in this story, we start out with an action scene, and we've got Blink carrying a backpack running through a skyscraper, and she jumps out a window, and you've got some dog sentinels chasing her. Oh, they're probably not sentinels, but they call it, what do they call them? Hellhounds or something.
Right.
But it just made me laugh. I was like, this is very familiar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the hounds have been a thing for sure. And there's only so many ideas. If you're chasing people down, make it look like a dog. It makes sense.
Yeah. So Blink is basically kind of like a Nightcrawler type mutant, except that she throws like these spears that are crystallized time. And so she can create portals with them. Like wherever they hit, they burst into portals, and you get the like portal A, portal B kind of thing.
And she can also go between universes, I think.
Yeah.
Or is that a separate device that lets you do that?
No, she's like a super time traveler, or like teleporter. She can teleport all over the place. So in any event, so she kind of is being chased by these hounds. She jumps through a portal and kind of gets to the ground. And there you've got Creed and Wildchild, who are in this universe X-Men, not villains. They started out as villains, but basically they failed Apocalypse, and he was like, "You're not worthy," and so he kicked him off the team and was going to kill him. And
Sabretooth feels really guilty about that, and is kind of trying to make up for the bad stuff he did, kind of like a Black Widow situation, the red in his book sort of deal.
Yep. So Blink keeps running, gets past kind of her protectors, and I guess they fight off the Hellhounds, and then Havoc shows up, and Havoc was part of Apocalypse's group. So I think this is like post the fight with Apocalypse, but you still have this like faction of I guess like fascist mutants who had taken over the world.
Is dead. That is what ended the Age of Apocalypse. Yeah. I think he's working with Mr. Sinister, because Mr. Sinister had also betrayed Apocalypse, but for other reasons.
He was part of Apocalypse's group, but Apocalypse wanted to complete his conquest of the world, and Mr. Sinister didn't like the idea of that likely leading to a holocaust of like nuclear Armageddon. He like wanted the world as it was, where it was like mostly the world, just he was in charge of it.
Yeah, so where he could do his mad science genetic stuff to his heart's content. That's really what he's after.
Yeah, exactly. So he was feeding information about Apocalypse's plans and weaknesses to the X-Men to try to help them overthrow Apocalypse.
Never trust Sinister. Just don't do it. It doesn't work out well.
No. Yeah. So anyways, Havoc shows up, and I guess he was chasing Blink.
Yeah.
And
what she's doing, we find out, is she's stealing something from, is it Apocalypse's Citadel?
No, I think this is just a random skyscraper in North America.
Okay, but still something from
they want,
Mr. Sinister group. She's stealing a thing from there.
Yeah, and then Rogue shows up, who's also on the X-Men of this world, so with Sabretooth and Blink, and she fights with Havoc, and then Gambit shows up and kills Havoc because
he does.
Havoc kind of gets the better of Rogue, even though she kind of sucks some of his power. And he's not exactly an X-Man in this world. He was part of his own little group called the Externals. He was originally an X-Men, but he like broke off because he couldn't handle being around his lover who was married to Magneto. But because he still loves Rogue, he kind of helps Magneto whenever he asks for help.
He's kind of like a free agent, but on the outskirts of the X-Men.
Yep.
So he shows up and he throws like an entire deck of exploding cards at Havoc.
Yeah.
And definitely kills him. He's
this is one of the things that I kind of don't like art-wise. I mean, the cards are definitely a Gambit thing we've seen before, but in the Age of Apocalypse, it was very clear that he threw daggers, not playing cards.
Oh, interesting.
And it was part of the whole like, things are different, so he's a little more lethal than he was. Yeah. So this seems to be, I don't know, going back to the Gambit that we know.
I guess it's a call between, do we want to make it understandable to current day readers who just think of Gambit as the cards guy, or do we really want to make this for the hardcore Age of Apocalypse sickos who are going to remember the dagger thing? And they went with cards.
Yeah. So one of the things that's weird about this is after they kill Havoc, they kind of talk about like, oh, we never knew, why Havoc left the X-Men and like betrayed us, but that didn't happen in the Age of Apocalypse. He was never an X-Men. He was just, one of the kids that worked under Sinister.
Right.
So
okay, interesting.
That's something some of the sickos were kind of complaining about, and it was just kind of an annoying thing.
I mean that lovingly, all you sickos out there. Don't take it wrong.
It doesn't really seem to affect the story, but I did think like that's kind of obnoxious, Jeff Loeb. And it doesn't really add anything, right? It's just sort of Anyways.
Okay, so they take the thing they stole, which I guess is a top hat. Or
no. So
it
was a backpack. So then they blink back to the headquarters with Magneto, right? Yeah. And then
Magneto's
they open the bag,
HQ, wherever that is,
and inside the bag is Morph. So he's morphed into a top hat.
Week. You might think, oh, no Infinity comic, boo-hoo, no Morph this week.
Yeah.
We absolutely get Morph, so that's nice. I like Morph.
Yeah. So we learned that basically Magneto had heard that the former Horsemen were up to something, and so he had Morph infiltrate their base to kind of figure out what was going on. And then it'd been however long, like 3 weeks, they had to get him out of his like deep cover. So Blink went in, rescued him.
That's what Blink was heisting Morph back.
Yep. And so Morph says, hey, like, don't 100% know what their plan is, but they've captured Forge.
Right.
And then I know where they've taken him or something like that. And it's the former Citadel of Apocalypse in New York.
That's where the Citadel comes into.
Yes.
So now it turns out, though, that this is information planted by Sinister.
Yes. Yeah. Sinister realizes if he sent Magneto a message saying, hey, we need to talk, he's not going to go talk to Sinister. Which, fair, right?
Fair, absolutely. But
never trust a Sinister.
But Sinister loses one of his beloved Summerses.
Yes.
And Sinister loves him some Summerses.
Yes.
So you'd think he'd be bad about that, but I guess maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know.
Yeah. But question one, like what is he trying to accomplish, right? That's one of the big queries that I have about this, and my overall enjoyment of this series is really going to depend on whether Jeff Loeb can really explain what they think is going to happen here.
Right.
And then in general, your point about like, yes, Havoc is dead, but it is Sinister and he's the clone master, right? Like, who's to say he just doesn't have the ability to clone another
Excellent
Havoc?
Point. He's probably got a few of them already on ice.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to go to Sinister headquarters, the former Citadel of Apocalypse.
Yes, they break in.
They're going to rescue Forge.
Yeah, they break in to rescue Forge. All of them come, including Magneto, and Sinister's there and says, "Hey, we don't have to fight."
But a bunch of them.
Yeah, we don't have to fight. Like, I was actually just trying to get you to come talk to me.
Yeah,
and
they do kill some henchmen, some Infinites first, but I guess that's just part of doing business.
Yeah, just what you do here. So, so they decide not to fight, and they talk to Forge and Sinister, and I don't really get exactly why Forge is disassembled here. But
I don't understand this page at all. It's like they're using him and his power to do something, but I don't know what Sinister learned by using him, by plugging him in like a GPU.
Yeah, he's disassembled. There's a lot of wires connected to him, and then there's all these holographic projections of various Age of Apocalypse characters, and they're like before and after stage.
Yeah, I think those projections might be not only before and after, might be this universe and the regular 616 version.
It's not.
It's not?
Yeah, I went back and looked. Man. These are like earlier versions of... So Age of Apocalypse, the original story, there's like issue 1, which is like the beginning of the Age of Apocalypse, and then the main story is like 10 years later. So issue 2 is like, shit happened, Apocalypse 1, and now we're going to like continue the story after that. So the first photos are like... Although the order of them doesn't make sense. So like the Storm with the red outfit, red and gold, that was like her, year 1 outfit. And then the like black and silver is her year 2 outfit.
Okay.
But then if you look at Cyclops, before and after he loses his eye is like year 1 and year, 10. So it's like reversed, not consistently across them.
So we don't know what this is about, but somehow Sinister is saying something about, we all expected that when Apocalypse was killed and when wackiness occurred with the Macron crystals, everyone thought that the victory by Magneto was going to mean this whole timeline was just wiped out. That was why it was going to be so heroic, is you're fighting to erase your own timeline, which is a cool part of Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, the whole point is like this world sucks and the real world should have been different, right? And so they fight to essentially get Bishop to go back in time and stop Legion from assassinating Xavier, which then in theory erases your timeline and resets everything. And that would be a good thing because at that last point you had the last surviving humans who all lived in Europe essentially launching like a nuclear Armageddon on North America.
Right. Making the dystopia even more dystopian.
Yeah. Because their whole thing was like, if we don't kill all the mutants and all the mutants that were like pro-apocalypse, like working for Apocalypse, then they're just going to, yes, Apocalypse is dead, but they're just going to like
oppress us again.
Oppress us again. Yeah, that was kind of like their whole goal, and they were part of that regime. So, and the X-Men, having been there to fight with Apocalypse, should have been taken out with all the nukes, but for some reason they survived.
Right. Somehow the Emperor returned.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the part, like, I don't know. You guys probably figure out I really love time travel stuff. I just like the idea. I don't know exactly why I do, but I do. So Sinister says basically, okay, we all thought that when the timeline was reset, we would just blink out and essentially, there would be just the original timeline and we would be a part of that. And all of this we'd have forgotten, right?
Right.
But in reality, somehow
people who had been born in between would just stop existing because that just never happened.
Yeah. So he says, what really happened was they went back in time. They changed that timeline, but that didn't erase our timeline. Our timeline continued. It just basically opened up a branch, to a different timeline. And so I guess this is, how this becomes its own, whatever you said, Earth 2, whatever.
295, I think.
295, yeah.
I'll check that.
Yeah. So 295 would continue, and as well as the other parallel Earth.
Hey, I was right, 295.
And, he's saying well, in reality, our timeline, 295, is the real timeline. And this other, the 616, should not have ever continued.
Right.
Now, my question is, how do these two parallel universes like threaten the existence of 616 threaten your timeline, right?
Right. That's what I'm getting to. What he's like, we want to be the real timeline. We want to be the main timeline. But is that just like a title? Like what? How does it actually benefit Sinister or anybody to have this being dubbed the main timeline?
Yeah.
I don't get what's happening here. I'm on exactly the same page as you.
Yeah. So from the X-Men's perspective, I kind of get what their concern is, right? Like they did all this shit and made all these sacrifices to have a different existence, and then that didn't happen. So to them, the mission continues, right? Like whatever we did didn't work. We need to do something else. But I would think that like all you could really do is go back in time, and the people that go back in time could take over the roles of the people. They could become the new X-Men. In theory, you could just kill the original X-Men and take over and live in their nice little utopian world.
Okay.
But that doesn't really seem to explain like why some of the people in the 295 stay.
Yeah, that wouldn't change the 295 to make it better. That would just be, they want to make your own house better. That'll just be your own house is still crappy, but you move into the house next door that's nicer.
Yeah.
But they seem to be talking about rescuing this whole timeline.
Yeah.
Which doesn't
seem threatened, which is like, I'm like, this timeline is continuing. And I get this idea of like Rogue and Magneto not going back in the past because they have a family, right? Like as bad as this world is, like on the outside, they have a family and love in this timeline. Like, why would you give that up? So I get why they wouldn't be there. I also get why, Gambit maybe is more interested in not being part of this timeline going forward. But yeah, that's the biggest thing here is I really need Loeb to, in the next issue, really nail down like what is the objective of these people and why do they feel like they have to change things?
So they set out to try to change things. So a team, Blink, Forge, Gambit, Morph, Sabretooth, and Wildchild, wacky team, they're going over to wherever they're going to go. But first we go over and we revisit Mr. Sinister and find out that Mr. Sinister has a whole side thing going on where he's secretly allied with Holocaust, horrible name, Apocalypse's son. So that's not a great sign when the guy you're working with is secretly working with a guy named Holocaust. Yeah,
and this is the next big sort of like, hey, Jeff Loeb, did you actually read the original story or not? Beat, because this Holocaust actually is in the 616. At least from Age of Apocalypse, at the end of that, he left the Age of Apocalypse timeline and he followed everyone into the present, which is how we saw him at the start of
Era of Apocalypse.
Era of Apocalypse, yeah.
So that one was called Genocide.
Yeah, they changed his name.
Changed his name, but he was still, he wasn't like the 616 version like Blink. It was the actual guy.
Yeah, he was just realized, maybe that term is not appropriate.
let's soften it to Genocide.
Yes.
Yikes. Okay, so interesting.
Yeah, so everyone's like, how is he here? Because he actually left in that timeline, right? Like, you could retcon this whole idea of, okay, you survive the nukes. I mean, that's stupid, right? But maybe you just have some mutant throw up like a shield or something.
Right.
This to protect everybody. But why would this character still be here? Unless maybe after he got his ass kicked in the 616, he decided it was not, he wasn't happy with the outcome and he decided I was happier as Holocaust. And he went back to this timeline somehow.
Could be. So something, like I said, never team up with Mr. Sinister. It never works out.
Yeah.
No matter how bad you think you are, he's teamed up with somebody worse.
Yeah.
Maybe just himself.
So Forge decides he's got to fix something and he needs Blink. I think Blink is because she can go between realms. And then Forge has this like time travel thing. So their powers combined can get them in the past and then also back onto like the 616 timeline.
It doesn't say exactly where they're blinking off to. We don't get a little narration, anything, or a little label. We just see them pop out in this lovely place. And Morph calls out, Morph and Sabretooth call out that, hey, it smells really good here. There's no pollution. Yeah. So something's very different.
Well, and it says Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. So we know it's not Grey Malkin. So this has to be the past of the current continuity.
So this is 616, we think?
I think so. Yeah, because X-Man after Age of Apocalypse was briefly in the 616.
Right. And we turn the page, and the cliffhanger is X-Man Nate Gray, who's this universe's Cable, basically. Is that right?
Roughly, yeah. I haven't really read the X-Men stories
yet. He has the glowy eye like Cable. He has the hair kind of like Cable.
Yeah.
Doesn't have any pouches. It doesn't have a giant gun. So maybe he's not Cable. But he's got the glowy eye. And yeah, he is a Jeff Loeb character. And the cliffhanger is him telling this group of X-Men, you shouldn't be here.
Yes, which is correct. They shouldn't. But yeah, and then back to Sinister talking with Holocaust. I mean, clearly they wanted this team to go back to wherever this is and do whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, clearly he has other motives. Like there's motives within motives. Like Holocaust has his motives to make it back to the glory of Apocalypse. Either he wants to be the new Apocalypse, basically. Yeah. Sinister, he says, I don't want that. I only want returned what was mine. I don't know exactly what he means by that either.
I think it just means he wants to be, the mad scientist that can kind of do genetic crap with whoever.
Could be.
He needs some humans, and they're not
the
really
X-Men
any left.
think that they're going to make everything happy and shiny.
Yeah.
So no one really knows what the other ones want. And that's where X-Men Age of Apocalypse Alpha #1 ends. To be continued in like a month in X-Men of Apocalypse #1.
Yep.
So that was complicated. That's a lot.
Yeah, it really relies on you having read Age of Apocalypse.
This is not for noobs.
No, it's not. And there's really no point to this because we know that they're not going to change the timeline in any significant way with Age of Revelation going on at the exact same time. So it's just cheesecake. The art, I think, is pretty dang good. And if you like seeing these characters and the way they interact with each other, it's, I'd say it's pretty faithful to Age of Apocalypse. So a lot of that is the reason I end up enjoying this.
I don't have a lot of words to describe the art, except it looks very 90s to me.
Yeah.
Which I know is not specific, but that's the vibe I get, which is not my preferred style.
Yeah.
But it has a very neon-y glow to every panel. Neon green, neon blue, neon orange, which is kind of a look I associate with the 90s.
Yeah. The funny thing I'll say about the art is I agree with you on what you're saying right now, but also the redesigns of the character outfits is more contemporary. So it's like a contemporary version of the 90s.
Okay.
Because the actual Age of Apocalypse, that's one of the things as I'm reading through it, it's just really glaring to me. I'm like, oh God, this is stylistically not the way I want comics to look anymore.
So if I was just doing this on my own, I would drop this here and say, hey, this is not so much my thing. If you're in the audience for this, you know it. But Ruben, you're saying you'd like us to stick with this story for a while?
I think so. I mean, I'm going to continue. I guess I have almost a month until the next issue drops. And I assume that I'll finish Age of Apocalypse by then. Mm-hmm. And I kind of want to see, like, by the end of this, it's only 6 issues. Like, does this add anything to that story in a way where I'm like, okay, there was a point to publishing this? Or is it just totally cheesecake? On
my planning document, I have X-Men of Apocalypse #1 landing on November 5th. So like 6 weeks or so from today.
Yeah, I should be finished by then. I'm a slow reader, but not that slow.
Excellent. Okay, so folks, we will continue with this. Ruben will be our guide through this Age of Apocalypse stuff, and hope you come along with us. But we are not done, folks. We are not finished. We're an hour and 15 minutes by my clock into this already before Jim does his editing magic. And we're done with the official X book. So if you're only here for X-Men stuff, you can tune out now. We'll see you next week. But if you're here for a little bit of cosmic stuff, we do have Imperial War Nova: Centurion #1, which is written by Jed MacKay and Jonathan Hickman, art by Matteo Delafonte, colors by Yen Nitro, who I think was an American Gladiator back in the day. So good for him being a colorist now. Letters by Corey Pettit, who not an American Gladiator, maybe more of an American Ninja Warrior kind of guy, that Corey Pettit. And this book is one of those one-shot tie-in books to the Imperial War. And unlike some of the books, there are some important plot points that occur in this book. I'm sure they'll be reiterated when we get to Imperial War #4 itself, but some stuff actually happens. So if you're only keeping up with the main story, you don't really need to buy this, but it's more relevant than, say, She-Hulk was.
I feel like all of them, you could say the same thing about it, except She-Hulk, I've really felt like was completely unnecessary. I have a hard time like expecting that anything from that is going to play into the bigger story or even need to be like reiterated.
Yeah, and I should clarify even a little more. You don't need to read this whole issue. The first, 15 pages or so take place between two panels of an issue you've already read, between two panels of Imperial number 3. And then the new information comes in like the last 4 or 5 pages. So you decide whether it's worth it buying that. So what's going on?
That's Jonathan Hickman, right? When you like wonder what was his contribution to this, he loves that stupid little trope of, you see a scene and then, there was this other stuff that was happening in between panels.
Mm-hmm. So we didn't give a score for X-Men of Apocalypse.
Oh,
what would you call it? I don't feel qualified to give it a score because I don't really know what's going on. I thought it was okay, but you need a guide. So luckily, Ruben, I've got you as my guide.
Yeah. I was intrigued by it, so I'm gonna give it an optimistic 7.5.
Okay.
And I could have gone as high as like an 8.5 if the continuity things were a little tighter. But I'm a big fan of like, hey, I don't know. I guess this is also a 90s thing of like, you're from the future, everything's effed, and you want to go in the past and fix it. I mean, it's the whole Cable and Bishop like stories. I guess Bishop is a little slightly different, but
so 7.5 from Ruben, and I'm sure Jim will fix this in the edit, make it seamless.
Perfect.
Like a mistake never happened.
Thanks, Jim.
No one will hear the words I'm saying right now because Jim will edit them out.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go back to their seamless pickup of Imperial War Nova: Centurion number 1. And again, we don't necessarily need to read this, but I am going to say that this was my personal favorite book of the week. Again, compared with Exceptional and Hellverine and the lack of an Infinity comic. Yeah. It was pretty good. If we're reading this as an indication of how Jed MacKay is going to continue to write that upcoming Nova Centurion ongoing, I think it's a pretty good sign. It's going to be a different artist on that. That's going to be Alvaro Lopez, not Matteo Delafonte. But yeah, I think it's a good sign for that. And this takes place, so if you remember Imperial number 3, folks, there was a bit where Richard Rider puts on and activates a helmet containing the backup version of the Xandarian world mind superintelligence. And then the next panel, he tells his compatriots, hey, I have our answer.
Yeah.
So 15 pages of this issue.
And the question was who is responsible for starting the galactic conflict.
Right. He does not give the answer in that book. We know the answer because we read the rest of that book. We know the answer is the Inhumans. And he is going to come up with the answer to the Inhumans. But first, in between those panels, he has like an of the mind adventure as he has trouble making a connection between his actual brain. The brain bridge connection between the helmet and Richard Rider is not working out so well. Partially because it's a backup, partially because Richard Rider feels guilty about things, partially because he's been channeling the Nova Force raw dog without a helmet, or am I allowed to say that? Without, I guess the Nova is supposed to use the world mind to connect to this Nova Force.
Yeah,
but he's been doing it without one. So now going back the other way.
He stuck his finger in the socket directly instead of with the surge protector.
Finger. Let's go with finger. That's better choice. Yes. And so as it's trying to connect, we get all these hallucinations with the room is flying apart. And then he sees, I didn't read this story, but I guess the main version of the world mind was corrupted and Ryder abandoned it in a place called the Cancerverse. Have you read that story?
I haven't. And like I mentioned, I remember right after Annihilation, I think it was Annihilation. He had that world mind and it, he had all this power. And so it was a little weird to me, like why he didn't have it at the beginning of this, but the answer is I just didn't read that Nova miniseries.
Okay. So
sounds like the Cancerverse is basically hell. And it sounds like he was in hell and pieced out and left the world mind in hell.
I've seen references to the Cancerverse in other books, and I've never gone and really understood what it is. So maybe I'll go and read those issues. So
is this the thing that was in Phoenix?
I have no idea. Probably not.
When it was coming into the world, it looks similar.
It's very similar.
You're going to have to go back and read that and tell me.
I will not. I'll read the second issue of Dazzler before I read that.
Oh, God.
So this corrupted world mind, it looks like the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, but run through an H.P. Lovecraft filter.
Yeah.
It looks really cool. I mean, they had to give the artist some cool stuff to draw because there's no real action in the book. So they have to have some of the mind action, and it looks really cool, but it just doesn't mean anything. It's a hallucination.
Yeah.
So ultimately, Ryder gets control of himself. The connection is established, and he gets to have a little discussion with the world mind. And I don't really understand this bit. It's a backup version, but apparently not a full backup. And because he now has this world mind connection, the connection to the Nova Force has to go through the world mind. But now that limits what he can do with the Nova Force, and there's more of a cost to it.
Yeah.
Which seems like it's going to be important going forward to the main story that's coming. But
yeah,
that seemed kind of hand-wavy and arbitrary that, we're going to have to nerf your Nova Force powers for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people always say like Nova Force or the Nova Corps is just basically the Green Lantern Corps. And I really don't need the Nova Corps to be even more like the Green Lantern Corps. When I read that, I was just like, oh, so we're just going to have issue of like
Nova Force 5%.
Yeah, Nova Force at 2%, Nova Force at 1%. Oh no, your Nova Force ran out. That's one of my least favorite parts of Green Lantern. And I know they add that in there because otherwise he's just kind of like unstoppable.
Unlimited, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just didn't think that was a great like place to take Richard Rider.
That's future problems. We'll worry about that. Long story short here, they do talk. The world mind jumps to the conclusion that since the only cosmic players who don't seem to be involved in this war are the Inhumans must be secretly behind it all. Which the logic here seems a little sketchy, but I'm not a cosmic scale superintelligence, not even a backup of one. So I guess we just got to take it as.
I mean, this is racial profiling, right? I mean,
yeah,
I was kind of like, there's got to be some other alien races, right? Besides just the Inhumans.
It's like or the dog that didn't bark, right? Because they're not involved, they must be involved.
Yeah, I don't know, that's kind of bullshit.
Which maybe I'd buy that more if we knew what the Inhumans had been up to since Death of the Inhumans.
Yeah,
like I guess Richard Rider and folks know what the Inhumans have been doing, and we just don't because it wasn't in the comics. But what happens is Rider wakes up from his little of the mind trance in that next panel. He says, yeah, I know who it was. It says it was the Inhumans. They all agree, yeah, I bet it was the Inhumans. And we know they're correct because we read all the way at the end of Imperial number 3. But that's like the first important plot point is that this group, Nova and Star-Lord and Shuri, they know that it's the Inhumans.
I mean, we haven't seen the Eternals, right? Like, why couldn't you just speculate it was the Eternals?
The superintelligence says it's the Inhumans. And we know they're right because, again, we saw it happen.
I know.
So we have another plot point that happens in the very last 2 pages of the issue. The Inhumans, they show up. That broadcast version. Medusa's broadcasting, not Black Bolt, because he doesn't speak until he wants to kill somebody. She's speaking directly to the Kree Empire. Because remember, the Kree are the species that sometime in the misty past created the Inhumans to be their very own special weapons.
Yep.
And Medusa says to the Kree, hey, Kree, you're in a pretty bad spot right now, what with those perfidious Skrulls, rebelling and screwing you over and all. But don't worry. We Inhumans, the House of Aegon, which is the royal family of the Inhumans, Black Bolt, etc., we, the House of Aegon, has come to save you. So that's what they're playing. They're secretly creating the mess, and then they're going to show up and be the big heroes to clean up the mess, and that's going to create, I guess, a space for them to be more prominent and get whatever it is they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to get an Imperial power under your control, you need actual people, right? And planets.
I guess so.
The Kree have all that, so it makes sense.
I thought they might just want to kick over all the sandcastles, and then everybody else is so busy fixing their own stuff that no one notices you take over a planet. Yeah. But they have bigger plans. They want to be the saviors, at least of the Kree. Yeah. And we know they have some grudges against the Kree because of, they were created as weapons. So it's a cool idea, and I'm curious to see where it goes and when we get back to the main Imperial series.
Do you recognize these other 2 Inhumans?
Other 2,
the one wearing the green and who are they and what are their powers? I know Medusa's got the hair, but
I recognize them both. I know the one on the left. Oh, what's his name? He had his own miniseries at one point. He is an Inhuman. Everyone is going to scream the name at their podcast players in a second. He's the one who did not go through Terrigenesis. He just has the inherent knowledge of seeing where the weak point of anything is. So he could walk up like to a mountain. So here's the weak point, and he could poke it with his finger, and the whole mountain would collapse.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
That he's a cool character. He had his own miniseries. Jim, fill it in right here. Okay, thank you, Jim. Because I remember.
Wow,
that's
incredible, Jason. You have such a depth of knowledge.
Live Google. Let's see if the AI can do this. Inhuman with the power to see flaws.
Karnak.
Yeah, okay. Karnak. Yes, it is Karnak. Not Johnny Carson doing his mind reading thing. That's a different Karnak. Yeah. This is Karnak, the Marvel Inhuman with the power to see flaws. Thank you.
That one looks like Gorgon. Gorgon, right?
Oh, Gorgon, yes.
He's a cousin of Black Bolt.
Yeah, they're all kind of related. It's it's a royal family thing. It's like Queen Victoria and on all the Habsburgs and stuff. It's that kind of deal. Okay, so he
creates shockwaves when he steps.
I thought Gorgon had like different looking legs and feet.
Yeah, he allegedly, but
so he's just drawn differently here. So I'm going to blame the art for me not knowing his name offhand. Okay,
also, if your whole thing is like stepping with power, like why is he like punching with his arms? But maybe I've got my Inhuman wrong. I'm going to go back to the drawing board.
Could be. Could be. We'll find out eventually. The art here is really fun to look at. It is tough here for Matteo Delafonte because it is really all conversation, but Jed MacKay does make up some cool of the mind fake hallucinatory action, so that looks neat. And Delafonte does what he can do with that kind of deal. Looks really nice. The ending, this bit with Karnak and maybe Gorgon and Medusa with her crazy hair and this pile of dead or beaten up scrolls looks awesome. So full points for that. Having the first 15 pages be just of the mind nonsense between panels, that's not great. But I am looking forward to where this plot point goes with the Inhumans doing a thing, and three people kind of know they're doing a thing, so we'll see how they oppose each other. I'm looking forward to see what the Jed MacKay Nova book is like. Love the art, really strong ending. I guess I can't go all the way to 8 just because those first 15 pages are just totally skippable. I'm going to have to give this a 7.5 out of 10. And that may be generous given the nonsense of the first 3/4 of the book being useless.
Yeah.
But
you end it with a little bit of excitement, right?
Yeah.
And that's I'd much rather be excited, when I finish the book than when I start the book and then I'm disappointed by the end. So it goes in the right direction.
Agreed.
And I think it was pretty cool at the end. I'm just going to give it a 7 because I do think you're right that we could probably just not read this and we'll get the important details in the next issue of Imperial. But I did like this little series of pages kind of expanding on it. And that last page with the Inhumans kind of looking like badasses, I thought that was a cool piece of art.
Nice. There is one more, I think just one more Imperial War one-shot that is Imperial War: Guardians, #1, and that's October 1st. And then, Imperial 4 doesn't actually drop until Halloween, basically, October 29th. So we got a little bit of time to wait before that, and that'll be when we're a full month into Age of Revelation.
I wonder what people are going to think. If you're like a big Inhumans fan, do you like this churn? Because they definitely are putting them into a position of like, we're the baddies now.
It is definitely a heel turn for them, yeah. I'm curious. I don't know if there's that many Inhumans fans out there. I don't know if there's a subreddit or a wiki for me to check out.
There's people frothing at their mouth being like, you're ruining the Inhumans.
The Inhuman stands out there. There must be a couple.
Everything we got when, Hoxpox dropped, right? I'm sure it's the same thing.
Could be. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. We've been chatting a long time. So I'm going to say recommended reading. How about that 2017 Nova series? Particularly, it's issues 5 through 7, we're told, that tell about the World Mind Cancerverse situation. So I think that's what I'm going to try to read this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about Uncanny X-Men #21, which wraps up that 2-issue team-up arc of Logan and Ransom. It's Phoenix 15, which might be the final issue of Phoenix. Again, one of those books that we don't know how it's going to come out the other end of Age of Revelation. Magic #10 comes out next week. We had dropped that book. Might be its final issue. I'm sure I'll say a little something about how it finishes up. And I guess that one's been selling really well, so that'll probably come back in some form after Age of Revelation. And Ruben, you have a not quite X book next week that you said you wanted to talk about on the podcast. Want to tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, you guys are going to get stuck with catch up on New Avengers.
More Avengers.
Yep. Avengers 1 through 4, New Avengers 1 through 4. But we have a lot of X people on that book. We've got Laura Kinney, and Namor is also part of the team. So it's like half the team is mutants.
So we will check that out. And Ruben, that'll be mostly you. So you're developing your own little corner of the podcast. I can take a little bit of a break. I don't really shut up, but I'll shut up a little bit. And that's what we got to look forward to next week. So Ruben, while I have some tea, I always run out of voice right as we do this next week thing for some reason. But as I have some tea and get my voice back in order, what should our loyal listeners do with their valuable time?
Read more X-Men comics.
Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X books is their mission, so get ready for the Learned Edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year.
Ruben.
It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show.